Hello, guys. Welcome to Rex Arthur TV, Rex Arthur Show. This is where we discuss LGBTQ issues with a humanistic approach. And today we want to focus on Barack Obama, the great Barack Obama, who is coming to Africa. To first, he's going to come to his home in Kenya and his second home, or whichever home, first home, second home, third home, and then he'll go to South Africa for the Nelson Mandela annual lecture that will fall. He'll give a lecture, a speech on the 17th of July, that's next week, and it is just before the Nelson Mandela International Day. And so we're doing this video. We always, whenever we've been online, we've always done a video in honor of Barack Obama. And in my former Rex Arthur channel, I did a video the time he was in the White House. I did a video and I honored him for being the greatest, one of the best and greatest president in the history of USA. And of course, as I've said, my stories, I closed the channel due to some illness that caught me, and now I'm back. Now that I've been able to manage my health properly, and I had to do this again. Thankfully, Obama is coming to Africa again, and so we want to also welcome him to Africa with this video. And I've been arguing with very many people. There are some people who argue about Barack Obama. So basically, this is a video just focusing on him and also Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King and also Malcolm X. All of these black liberation leaders that were actually human rights activists in reality, just that they had black skin. And why I'm doing this video is because there was a discussion we had with somebody, and he was of the view that, right now what is happening in Black America, which is a very important segment of America, and we'll also talk about this, but on our philosophy channel, racism, people don't know what to do, whether we should do away with color or we shouldn't. I am of the view there is no need to do away with color. We are supposed to accept that there are different colors and that all of them require equal opportunity, even if their history was laden with unequal opportunity. Like the black people suffered a lot more injustice than white people. That's a fact. In America, it is a fact that black people suffered more injustice. And now that they are solving it, they've solved it through the efforts of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and also Nelson Mandela, and even Barack Obama, who was cementing the rise of black people. Because had it not been for the efforts of Martin Luther King Jr., Barack Obama would not be president of America, because the Jim Crow laws and all of these, the Brown versus Board of Education, those those cases wouldn't have taken place. If you want to understand the power of these leaders I've mentioned, you look at South Africa. It's very, even the weight of the video I'm doing, I can't explain it. It is so heavy. It is so symbolic. It's so powerful. It's so, even in my Twitter page, I call these guys cosmic icons. They are for the time. There's something so weird about them, and that you even don't call them just world icons. You call them cosmic icons because they came at a time that the world was facing a lot of challenges, and the world is still facing the same challenges, which we'll also discuss in the video. Because South Africa also had a white population, and not relatively as big as the one in America. But do you know what? They still had, they stopped their Jim Crow laws in 1994. 1994, they stopped their Jim Crow laws and all of these. So even South Africa right now is still it is taking, it has to go through, it has to finish the years of servitude, of colonial servitude, with independence, and then start a new South Africa. So if I put it, I can put it around 1894 or around 1900. So that means 94 years or almost 100 years, South Africa was under subjugation, under colonial servitude. So what does that mean? Everybody born before 1994 is still under the colonial servitude and the apartheid servitude that took place in South Africa. Their minds are still apartheidic. So that means any child born at 94, that is now, I think they're 24 years old right now, that is the new South Africa. That is, and they are not in power, they're just working, some of them are still in college. So South Africa is still in the throes of apartheid. And this is why even their parliament is still in the echoes. They are always remembering the past. And it's going to take 100 years for them to come out of that shell, that historic shell they have gone through. And this is why I'm saying America is the America managed to get the independence. Actually not the it was not independence, but it was apartheid. They came out of apartheid during the time of Martin Luther King, because Brown versus Board of Education stopped discrimination in schools, and the civil liberties were born, and the civil rights movement was born, and now blacks were able to integrate into society. Had it been that the apartheid system in America remained till 2008, Obama would not have been president. That's how important. That's how important the civil rights movement is. And that's how important Barack Obama is to the civil rights movement in the world and the human rights movement in the world. And he lived by what he said. He was not just a black president who was, you know, he was just coming, like he was in the Republican Party or Democrat Party. He was more than that. He lived by his principles. He was a man who listened to a lot of MLK. He lived in America. He studied in America, and he was born in America. He had to learn how to live with his white grandparents. He even lived like most black men in America live, without their fathers. Not that their fathers were dead, they are just absent. And the reason why they were absent is because of life. You see? So many things happen in life, and the poorer you are, sometimes the more upsets in life you have, and your upbringing is also upset. So it it affects very many black people, in or even any race that is put under servitude somewhere. But if you look at history, mostly black people are the ones who have suffered a lot in very many systems. And so this video is about discussing those people, but around Barack Obama. And as I was saying, the friend of mine, he took a very weird stance. He was of the view that, I, the some blacks, which they are entitled to their opinion, some black Americans would say that, you know what, I prefer Trump to Obama because now at least blacks are getting jobs. And I was like, are you sure what you're saying? You should understand Barack Obama is not Donald Trump. That's number one. That's why in politics, it's not advisable to be involved in ad hominem arguments, attacking the character of a person. There are very many reasons why. First of all, ad hominem is not very intelligent. It's not a very intelligent fallacy or argument. It's hitting below the belt. And secondly, why ad hominem is not a very good argument to use to argue that someone calling somebody stupid or he doesn't have anything in his head. Those are useless arguments in philosophy. They are the least. It's the least fallacy to use. Why? Characters are different. They are different and they are unique. Barack Obama's time will never be Donald Trump's time. Never. Bill Clinton's time was not Barack Obama's time at all, even though they belonged to the same party, the Democrats. What Democrats did under Bill Clinton is not what Democrats did under Barack Obama. Simple. So it's waste of time to focus on ad hominem and just attacking someone's character, which is how Trump likes. He revels in ad hominem. He just calls someone, oh, this one bad person. Oh, this one, oh, doesn't have anything in the head. He always goes by that. But Obama was not like that. Obama gave his views and his arguments without ad hominem. You see, even Duque of Philippines, he is also a ad hominem. He likes reveling on abusing people, he even called, I think he called Obama son of a bitch. Yes. See? So those are ad hominem arguers, the philosophers. They just like attacking the person because they have no matter to argue with that guy. The guy he knows what he's doing. He has his principles. And so I said, no, Obama was different. And Obama, you need to look at everything. What are the differences? First of all, Obama was not a white man, even though he had a white mother. That should be laid clear. He's a black man because he has a black father. And even in America itself, they didn't see him as a white man. They saw him as a black man. It's simple. Secondly, Obama did not study what Trump studied. Obama is a lawyer by profession. Trump is not a lawyer by profession. Thirdly, the lifestyles of the two are totally different and the ages are totally different. Obama was born in the 60s, the time when civil rights were beginning to become a loud thing. Trump was born in the 40s, the time segregation was at its peak and white privilege was born and blacks were seen as low second class. Actually living in it was a Nazi German situation because in Nazi Germany the Jews they were made second class. But the only difference in Nazi Germany, the Jews were the big guns. They had money. and they were put down because of who they were. That's the problem of identity regimes that attack people's identities. When you have a regime or politics that goes for identity, who you are, it's very dangerous. You see, that's why we have this channel to support LGBTQ people, because they suffer a lot of identity attack. Identity, you know, when you identify as an LGBTQ, 80%, if you're in a homophobic country, that means you can even go to jail, you can be denied a job, you can be denied services. It's that serious in a homophobic country. And why? It's because of just identity, just who you are. And this is why we used to tell people that the Black Lives Matter or the civil rights movement is no different to the gay rights movement. Yes. Because some blacks used to say, no, you know, how is it that gays are similar, having a similar struggle with the black people and their white gays? No, it's not about the white gays. It's that they have identified as gay, whether white or black or brown, they have identified as gay, and that is seen as wrong in homophobic societies, and they hate it to the point they even criminalized being gay. You see why it's even worse? The LGBTQ movement has even more, has had a lot of tribulations because there were laws criminalizing you for being who you are sexually. And the blacks, they were not necessarily criminalized, but this, the way the system was run, it was like you were being criminalized for being black. And as long as you're black, it's like, no, you won't get there. As long as you're gay, no, you won't get there. As long as you're a woman, no, you won't get there. You see, all of these is all about identity. And the solution to identity politics war is human rights. It is a human rights politics which was seen in Obama's life. And that's how I answered my friend. And I told him, no, I am not attacking Donald Trump. It's, in fact, Donald Trump may do a very good job economically because of his background being a businessman. Though it doesn't mean I should support him. And I still know why I know why I like Barack Obama, and he stood for human rights. And I went on to tell him that, you know, Obama, there's something he did in his presidency that was very powerful. He was very international. Because what he wanted to see in America, he wanted to see in the whole world. That's what he wanted. And he wanted human rights and tolerance of everybody in America. So he also wanted human rights and tolerance all over the world. That's why he spoke against homophobia in Africa. He spoke against homophobia in Asia. He spoke against homophobia even in America where he was president. He spoke against it. It's so important that when the US Supreme Court passed gay marriage, they lit up the White House with colors. Do you know Obama had every right to say, I'm not going to light up rainbow colors on the White House? He would have said no. And nobody would do anything to him. I mean, Trump is in his second year. No rainbow lights in the White House. And he won't do it. If he does, I'll be very shocked. But I can understand his position why he can't do it. He is surrounded with evangelicals who are mostly homophobic. They don't want to associate with the LGBTQ movement. They hate it. And some of them, the same evangelicals, hated Obama because he stood with the LGBTQ movement, not understanding why he stood with the LGBTQ movement. He stood with them because LGBTQ people are human beings, just like anybody else. He also stood with the black community in America because blacks are also human beings like anybody else. He also stood with even the Native Americans. I remember when he used to do the commemorations, or rather the mourning services, mourning the deaths of people because of gun shooting. He invited native Indians to come and pray. Yes, that was a very good sign of of um, of tolerance and of saying sorry. He said sorry to the Native Americans because in a way he was seeing, like, maybe we are letting go of these people and this is their land. We should always be thankful to them. And even Thanksgiving, could be a holiday whereby American can change it to saying we also want to tell the Native Americans we are part of you. So anyway, that was Obama because of his human rights philosophy, his philosophy of tolerating people. He did that to the LGBTQ movement. And as I've told you, Trump is not like Obama. That's why he is not doing what Obama did to the LGBTQ movement. You see, Trump, because as I've told you already, Trump is the Trump is surrounded by homophobes or people who don't support, are not in the LGBTQ movement. But Obama was surrounded by everybody. Yes, everybody who was able to tolerate, not just everybody. Sometimes English is bad. We can generalize and just say everybody. That would mean even a neo-Nazi, and that's not true. Everybody who could tolerate each other and people who are, and each other's identities, because there is no identity that is a crime. That's what you need to know. There is no identity, and especially biological identities. LGBTQ is a biological identity. Being black is a biological identity. Being a woman is a biological identity. Being a man also is a biological identity. We also have to consider men because there's this movement. Of course, women have gone through a lot of suffering, uh, but also men go through suffering, and most of the times it's gay men who go through suffering because they are not seen as men. See, they are not considered men, and people look down to men who appear who say they are gay. It's like it's demonizing. And there's so much to talk about the whole. There's even a lot happening because men are also now speaking out against the system when women are speaking. Like today, I think I just saw on the news Stormy Daniels was arrested, and because and people, you see, the people who stand with men will say, look, why would you believe her story if she can be arrested? She may be a lady who likes getting money from her hookups and then blackmails you and does all of these things. So anyway, I don't want to go to Stormy. Today we're on Barack Obama. I'm just trying to bring you the point that Barack Obama surrounded himself with every identity, biological identity. Even disabled people are a biological identity. They are a biological identity. Why I'm using the word biological identity is because I don't want to be involved in the generalization that every identity, because even a neo-Nazi is an identity. Yes, a neo-Nazi is. So why would Obama want to surround himself with neo-Nazis? No, he wouldn't. because a neo-Nazi is a person who fights an identity. A homophobe is a person who fights an identity. You see, an Islamophobe or whatever, all phobes, anyone who is a phobe of something fights an identity. And what is to fight an identity? Is to discriminate, it is to met violence, it is to met even mental uh, disturbances and psychological torture. It is to put them through a lot of trouble because of their identity. That is the issue. And I also carry Obama's human rights philosophy, and I like it so much. I stood with it for almost all my life because I think diversity is natural. It is real. We will never be the same in the sense that I am not you and you are not me. And there is something I'll get from you that I will never get from anybody else. And there is something that you get from me that you will never get from anybody else. That's the reason why, if I'm going to get something from each and every person, I can't kill each and every person because I'm getting something from that person. There's something good. You see, this is what humanism is all about. Humanism looks at the positive of a human being. Even if that human being commits error, you look at the positive. You see, the society is not built, or the system we have are so non-inhuman. They don't focus on the positive of the human being. They focus on the negative. And the problem of focusing on the negative, it increases more negative. So we still have a lot of work to do worldwide to humanize our systems. And already some countries in the West have humanized their systems. You go to their prisons, they are very neat, very good. You even live like a king. Why? Because they know this person who has committed the crime is a human being. Deep down, they are not looking at the negative, what he did. They are looking at who he is. He's a human. He's a human being. And this is unlike the other systems in the global south, whereby politically, the political systems are very, very negative. And it's because of religion. Because religion focused on sin, that man sinned. And because man sinned, man is wicked. And so, because of that, wickedness is glorified sometimes in some sectors of the world. Wickedness is glorified because of that negativity. So, unless we humanize our systems, we are in for, but we are already humanizing. I'm so shocked someone like Trump has toned down on war language. America has the biggest war chest in the world. And what he did with Kim, on the positive side, is good because America didn't respond the way they responded to Japan. You see, they didn't respond with the way they bombed Hiroshima. They sat down and talked. And that's good for a Republican. For the Republican Party, that's a milestone because the Republicans are known to go to war. And it's not that. I think what is happening in the world militaristically, war is becoming a side issue. It's now just about maintaining peace rather than going to war, because the military is all about going to war. And we'll talk about this in the philosophy channel, not here. Anyway, so that's Obama. Now let's finish this video with bits and pieces. We want to first focus on Obama's visit to Kenya and then Obama's visit to South Africa. at least we cover that. But primarily, Obama is coming to Africa. It's home. He's very much welcome. And Africa is his home, whether come rain or shine, even though America is also his home. Now, he's coming to Kenya. What is the significance of his coming to Kenya? When I look at Obama, as I told you, when you are a humanist, sometimes you look at somebody in a human way and you really feel you're really touched when you think about the human side of a human being, and you look at Obama's life and how he didn't live with his father, but he loved his father, and how his father even got to America, and the father got to America out of to study, and he was already. I mean, America was, Britain had colonized Kenya, and all of that, and so these were the new Kenyans who are going out and saying, now we're independent and we want to study. He was just living life. He was just just a human being. That's the beauty of humanism. You look at humans and you say, you take time and just look, wow, that's just a human. If you look at it in the religious way, you will say, oh no, he's a drunkard, he's sleeping around, and those people who talk like that, and it's sometimes fun with them, but sometimes it's good to be human. And so you look at that. It's very emotional, in my view, especially if Obama had time. You see, the problem, Obama didn't really have time with his father. He really didn't, and that's why he had that book, Dreams of My Father. And he was really seeking seeking that connection with the father. And I look at Obama psychologically and humanistically as a man who shows us the importance of having a relationship with a man. If you are a man, your father-son relationship is very important. And this is something that many blacks missed, not only in America, even in Africa, because of the way society is set up. Though not all blacks missed it. I was even thinking about it today. There are societies where they had men they are taken to their initiations. I've noticed something about them. They are very close, their sons are very close to their fathers, especially if their fathers were there. Because whenever they would initiate those boys, the boys now were supposed to spend time with the elders. They were to spend time with the men. And the girls were spending time with the older women. And so that kind of created a homosocial bond that 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 made them very, they got to get love from the same sex, and not necessarily sexual love, but what you call the stodge love, the parental love, the senior love that you get from an older person. But of course, this has been distorted and has been crushed because of society, the way life is going very fast, you know, the single motherhood, and crime is going up, because crime is going up because of economics. It's gone bad. And so the fathers are in prison and the mothers now stay with the kids. And of course the mothers show love to the sons, but they can only show the motherly love. They cannot really show the fatherly love unless your mother is an intersex. Which, even if she's an intersex, it's a different story. An intersex is an intersex, and a heterosexual woman is a heterosexual woman. And we'll talk about the sexual identity crisis again in another video. So the so Obama, if you look at him, he was really looking for that fatherly love, and he got it in very many ways. If you read the book, the autobiography, and when he comes to Kenya, it's like wow, I've come to my father, my father's people. And you see, as you've been watching on our channel, we have been putting the news items about Obama's coming to Kenya. The reason why we're doing that is to show people how much people love their sons, or they are proud of him because of what he did in America. He was the first black president of America, and people should not take that lightly. They should really, really understand the magnitude of that thing. And he was not just the first black president. He did well. On the merit, he was a good president. When merit, that's what Martin Luther King said. Don't just judge people by their color. He didn't want people to be color minded. He wanted people to be character minded. And the character minded meaning, look at somebody, at his achievements. If he does well, whether he's white or, commend him. If he does well, whether he's a man or a woman, commend them. And that was Martin Luther King's. That's why he is a humanist. He is a humanist. He's a human rights man, and that's why Obama is the way he is. Obama didn't come into the White House and just put blacks and say, now this is the time we've come to destroy white America, and I just put black people all over. No, he still, because he knew that everybody is everybody, and every identity is unique, is part of, we are to work together irrespective of our races or our sexual identities. So that's why, I mean, look at Obama. Even his administration wise, he's a good manager compared to Trump. Trump has sacked and many people have resigned more than Obama's time. Reason being, as I told you, the first thing you need to know, Obama is not Trump. Yes, they think differently. Yes, that's why things are going the way they are. And they will always be like that. Even the next president after Trump will not behave like Trump. And that's good. I mean, look at Democrat Party. Hillary Clinton was not necessarily Barack Obama, even though they shared the same values. There were some differences they had. So anyway, that's why he's always given a warm welcome when he goes to Kenya, whether he is a president or not. And he's now coming to Kenya. Let him be welcomed. Open arms, because good job. He is still a good leader. Now, let us go to. So he's coming to see his parents, and I mean, his grandparent and his sister, and which is good. I'm happy. Let him come. He can still talk about whatever he wants to say. Of course, everybody knows his stance. Sometimes you don't even repeat yourself. People know what you stand for. So it's okay. He's welcome. Now let's go to finish the video with Obama going to South Africa. He's going to South Africa to give a lecture for Nelson Mandela, the Nelson Mandela annual lecture that is going to happen before the Nelson Mandela Day, International Day. And why I want to focus on this as we end this video is Nelson Mandela was also a very great African leader. And I'm enjoying this connection of Obama, Mandela, MLK, and also Malcolm X. There's a very nice picture that someone has put up of Malcolm X, Obama, MLK, and Mandela. Of course, when you look at Malcolm X, people wonder why was he put there, but there is a good reason why he's there. He was the what you call the military wing of MLK. He was also saying, but he was not happy with what was happening that time in America. And you see, he also died. He was also assassinated. But his message was still the same. And his message was the same as MLK's, only that they disagreed on how to get there. One was non-violent and the other one was violent. Now, Mandela was also arrested. Why was Mandela arrested? You know, people just say, oh, he was in jail 27 years. They don't know why he was in jail. He was called a terrorist. You know, he was called a terrorist. That, if you go and read the court records, that was what they said. He was involved in terrorism. And what was it for? He was fighting for black people to get their rights. And not just black people, the indigenous people. And he was a lawyer. And you see, that's the problem we have with the systems. Or when systems are in against you, it's that it's so weird, it's so ironic that your own country makes laws against you. See, that's what happened in America, the Jim Crow laws and slavery and all of these things. They they didn't treat the black people as citizens. See, that's what happened. And and you know, history is so bad because you have, for you to wipe out history, you have to use the same time. There's something I've studied about time, and it's like you need to finish. It's like a relationship. You know, you've gone through a divorce and you were married with this person for maybe 20 years, and then you divorce at the 20th year, and you need like another 20 years to flush out that person from your life completely, from your system, because you can't do it like in 6 months after 20 years of marriage. It's very hard because you need to go through a whole year without the person, then get used to living without the person for 20 years more. That's why divorce is not really advisable in most marriage quarters, because it takes time to break an attachment you've had with a person, especially someone whom you've always been with for 20 years. Like, you know, if you've been with somebody, if you're it's easier to divorce in a polygamy. The attachments are fewer. You know, you don't sleep with the person every time, because one time you're with another person, the other time with another person. So if you divorce that person, if you let go of a wife, you know, when or even a man, but mostly wives, because that's what happens. Most polyamorous relationships are with many women, and so you just release one, you will not really feel it. But when you're in a monogamous relationship, it's very hard, because the attachment you had with the person is strong. So you have to finish all those years and go. Now, for South Africa and America and any country that was colonized, they have to finish. They have to finish that time lapse. I'm yet to formalize a theory about that time thing, because like a country like let's take Kenya. They got independence. Kenya had independence in 1963, and they were colonized in, I think, 1895, if I can't remember. I can't recall the year. So that's around like 63, roughly 63, 68 years of colonization now, or 70. Now, what does that mean? That, and the Kenya now is 60, is 50, around 56 years, 55 years old from ever since independence. So what does that mean? They still have a way to go to clean up the colonial mentality that affected people. It is still in the system, and it's dying. So one of the signs of death is the progress the country is making. And but sometimes if you still remain in the colonial mentality of divide and rule and all of these things, you will not go anywhere. This is why Asia is an exception. They were also colonized, but they went through fast, fast change. Why? One thing I've learned about Asia, Asia is not diverse. They are actually homogeneous. There are very few tribes. There's no diversity. So there's no division in thought and doing things. So it was very easy to come in and tell people we're going this way, and everybody says we're going that way. But in Africa, there are many countries are different nations. They have very many nations in them. Now, the problem of that is that one nation wants to go this way, the other nation wants to go that way, the other nation wants to go there, the other nation just wants to stay there. So, all of that, you have to first of all bring all those nations together and say we are going to one place, and then you will go. So, it's still most of Africa, especially countries like Kenya, countries that had wars because of tribal issues. Even Rwanda actually is now in a better place because they have decided whether Hutu or Tutsi, we are going together. We are building the country. And that was what the Hutus had to accept if they want progress, is that, hey, let's just go and follow Kagame. And then also now encourage intermarriage to kill, because there was no homogeneity. The heterogeneity that was encouraged by the colonialist created division. And that's what happens in especially political development. Yes, you can develop even if you're diverse. I mean, when you look at a country like Uganda, they didn't really have tribal wars and they are very diverse. But the only problem they face is they may have tribal issues, but they face mostly economic issues when you're poor, when a country is poor. And so anyway, Africa, let me tell you, Africa is a cesspit of everything. So there's a lot to talk about in Africa. I was just trying to bring the point of there's that time aspect that someone has to go through, especially when it is very hard, dark history. Like as I've said, even Rwanda, much as they are progressing economically, how are they progressing as a country psychologically, as a people? You see, that's the healing that is happening. It's happening silently, silently. And we don't want to even interfere. It's a very solemn, you just let people go on and build, forget about the past. That's the best way to deal with it, with life, actually. Now, back to Nelson Mandela. So he was in prison for so-called crime. I don't think it was a crime. It was just like what happened to the Mau Mau. They were arrested for violence and all of that. But they were, you see, the intent was the issue. It was not what they did, even though whatever happened was seen as violence. That's why I don't want to talk about terrorism and all of these things. It's just another topic. My focus is on Mandela's freedom fighting, how he did it. He was in jail. And meanwhile, the also being hounded. And I love Steve Biko. I love his books. That man could write. And I used to wonder, the time I used to read his books, I used to ask myself, is this, I can't see Steve Biko. I love his books. That man could write. And I used to wonder, the time I used to read his books, I used to ask myself, is this, I can't believe this was a doctor writing. He was so passionate about the Black consciousness movement. And I'll even go back and read his books. I have to read them over again because there was something very intelligent about him. And he even has a very good comment. He said that, there's nothing like minority rights or majority rights. There is only human rights. And I say, yes, that's now, he's talking my language. As all of your rights are accorded. You see? Because like the LGBTQ will never be a majority. It's a fact. It will never be a majority. It's a fact. No matter what you say, whether you want to bring people and say now the that, oh, they are going to, there's an agenda. Those are just terms used to make people fight, or to make people a bit scared. They put them. It's just, but scientifically, LGBTQ will always be a minority. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't get their rights. They should get their rights. Now, so I was talking about Biko. Biko, that's what Biko said. Very brilliant man. But he was killed. He didn't even have time to stay in jail. The apartheid regime didn't want him at all. But Mandela, they could kind of stomach him. He was sharp. You just keep quiet, stay in prison. And when he stayed, they noticed something. This man was a very strong man, because many things were happening while Mandela was in prison. South Africa was being isolated by the world. The world was isolating South Africa because most of Africa had got independence. Even Zimbabwe, they had to go through guerrilla war. And as I've told you, that's why Mugabe is not Mandela. And it's because of how they fought. Zimbabwe's history is not South Africa's history. That is why Mugabe was who he was. It was the experience that shaped him. You see, when you read history humanistically, in a humanist way, you will be surprised. You will just look at Mugabe and really see, yes, this guy was burdened by the resistance. But Mandela took a different path. And that's what we want to finish the video with. Mandela took a path of, okay, you want to arrest me for fighting for my people? Arrest me. Even if I die in jail, I will die. But I know why I did what I did. And when 27 years was done, Mandela came out. And when Mandela came out, he came out a changed man. Not only a changed man, even better. What do I mean by better? Was he bad when he went? No. Better in the sense that he knew how to fight apartheid. In fact, he is the embodiment of non-violence. He's the embodiment of non-violent revolt. And then he's the embodiment of patience, resilience. And because he waited for freedom. And he waited in a very bad place. He waited for freedom. And when he got it, he came out very sober. He didn't even come out excited and I was like, bring my machine gun. Now we are finishing the boys. No. He said, I can greet the clerk. I'll greet his hand. Because he had every choice not to greet him. Every choice. He had a right to say, no, I can't greet the oppressor. But he greeted him. Next thing you know, he was elected president. And now, Mandela had the time to even rule South Africa like a dictator. He had everything in his hand. He had everything in his hand to rule South Africa like a dictator, but he didn't do it. Why? Because of the philosophy he carried, human rights philosophy, that I want a South Africa for everybody. All identities, black or white, colored, poor, and rich, that we have human rights to go on. And this is what Mandela built. The reason why South Africa is cannot collapse is because of that foundation Mandela laid. He had every right. He could have decided to go the way Mugabe went. You see how Mugabe went? Mugabe took a wrong path. I don't support Mugabe's path of revolution or resistance, but he was carrying a lot of anger. But Mandela controlled his anger in such a way that he said he sat down and even looked at the Boer and saw that the Boer man is also a human being, and is a human being who's ignorant, and all he needs to do is understand. He just take time and understand this is how it is, and the Boer understood, and they've stayed. And of course, South Africa is facing. I'm keenly waiting for Obama's speech, because he is. What is Obama going to say? He's no longer president of America, the greatest nation in the world. Meanwhile, the world is so sectarian. Obama has not even finished 5 years out of the White House, and things are in limbo. You know what I mean by limbo? Much as I mean, other things have reduced. Israel is still in turmoil, and as I've told you, the world is sectarian, whereby you have right wing policies going up, the immigrants and all of these things, the immigrant issues, then also what's happening in South Africa, the expropriation of land. I'm really eager to hear what Obama is going to say, and I'll listen to it, and we will come back and analyze what he said. But the most important thing is to know that Mandela and Obama carry the same sober yet soft spoken approach to race issues. The race issues. And this is why I do not attack them. Like other people, there are people who attack them. They don't like how Mandela did these things, which is weird. I don't know. That guy that such a person is very needs to be checked, because Mandela was reconciliatory. He was a peacemaker. And if you're religious, Jesus said that blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. They are sons of God. They have authority. Very big. When you're called a son of God, you are you are a powerful person. And that's what a peacemaker is. Why? Because peacemakers make peace. And that's what Mandela did. That's what Obama did. That's what MLK was crying should happen in the world. That people can sit down and eat together. So, that is the end of our discussion about. We will summarize it this way. Number one, the greatest human rights persons in the world, presidents Barack Obama and Nelson Mandela. They are the greatest human rights presidents because they had the chance to violate the rights of the humans who violated the rights of their people. But they refused. They said, you know what? Let us work together, even though we are different. Secondly, both presidents actually recognize LGBTQ persons as human beings, both of them, Barack Obama and Nelson Mandela. That's why they're the greatest human rights presidents the world has ever had. And that's why we are grateful. They have even honored Mandela with a statue. They have honored Obama with a statue. They honored Mandela at his burial, and Obama will be honored as long as he lives.